Hi, I'm Mark Cavendish and we're going to take a look back at my career highlights. So this was my first Tour de France win, all the way back in 2008 in Châteauroux. My first Tour de France was in 2007, but this was the first time I won. I won 4 stages this tour, and then I left early to go and prepare for the Olympic Games in Beijing. But yeah, that was a good time. We nearly didn't catch the group. Actually, I had to use Nicolas Bogandy, who was the French champion. I had to use him to get the slipstream to launch my sprint. He was still away in the breakaway, and I had to jump away and use his slipstream to kind of get a jump on the rest of the peloton. But that was an unbelievable moment, as you can see from my celebration there. I was just in disbelief that I'd won a stage of the Tour de France. I didn't really know what to do, and you can see that from the celebration I do. My first ever professional victory at the Schelde Prijs in Belgium in 2007. So I'd started my career, and as a new guy, I had to lead out the other sprinters, the older sprinters earlier in the year, and the manager that drives the car for us, he was like, okay, the team, you ride for Greipel, who was our top sprinter in the team. He was a German guy. So the team ride for Greipel, but Cav, you have a free rein, see what you can do. This is the oldest race in Belgium. It's a prestigious race for sprinters, and it finishes with a circuit just outside Antwerp, does some cobblestones and so some heavy roads, and so I was given the free rein, and I just went on the Quick Step team. I thought I'll use them, they'll get a lead outright, and I ended up riding for Quick Step years later, and yeah, I won. So the Champs-Élysées is the most famous finish in cycling, I think. Everybody knows most years, except for this year actually, when the Tour de France finished in Nice, because the Olympic Games was in Paris, but every other year, the Tour de France finishes with a bunch sprint on the Champs-Élysées in Paris. And it's a dream for any sprinter. You know, it's actually a really hard sprint to get right. There's a corner. They've changed it now, but back in the day, there's a corner with just under 300 to go, and you had to nail that corner to be able to get the sprint right. It's slightly uphill, it's on cobblestones. Everyone knows the Champs-Élysées, the most beautiful boulevard in the world, but to finish after 3 weeks of racing, it takes it from a picturesque boulevard to, you know, finishing straight a gladiatorial arena. It was my first time getting to the Champs-Élysées. I'd won 5 stages already at that Tour de France, and my team at the time, HTC Columbia, they nailed it absolutely perfect, and Mark Renshaw got me around the last corner in such a good position that yeah, he was second as well. So I won, Mark was second, and we celebrated like that. It was an amazing finish to a brilliant Tour de France. So I'd been quite ill, quite down for a number of years. I'd gone in 2016, being a sprinter in the world, winning world championships on the track, yellow jersey in the Tour, 4 stages, that, second the Olympic Games, like a massive year to pretty much in the wilderness for the next few years. Yeah, I hadn't had a win for many, many years, and at the end of 2020, I decided to go to 2021 to Quick Step where I'd been previously, and it was for no pay. It was just the place that I knew that I had no excuses. I had a good bike, I had a good team, I knew the people there, and I could just get back to trying to win again. And this is my first win back that year. I was always under the impression that you don't go from being the best in the world to really the worst overnight. You know, you might go a bit less, and eventually arrive at the bottom, but you don't do that jump. It doesn't happen. Other people don't think like that. So there's always going to be critics about those years, but it is how it is, isn't it? If everybody knew kind of what you had to do to get back, then it'd make my job harder to be at the top in the first place. Milano-San Remo 2009. So in cycling, there's 5 races they call monuments. There's Milano-San Remo is the first one in Italy. There's Paris-Roubaix, Tour of Flanders, Liège-Bastogne-Liège, and the Tour of Lombardy, and that comes in the autumn. But Milano-San Remo is the longest race in professional cycling, and it goes, like its name says, from Milan to San Remo, which is on the Ligurian coast in the north of Italy. It's a beautiful run, it's a beautiful race, and it's also known as a race that's the easiest to finish but the hardest to win. So it's a pretty flat race, and nothing much happens for most of the distance. And then there's a series of climbs that almost crescendo to the finish. They get bigger and bigger and bigger, and they provide launch pads for climbers to go, for rouleurs to go, for anybody that wants to attack for the finish. Well, that means any one of the almost 200 bike riders that starts that race is in with a shot of winning. You don't know if it's going to be a bunch sprint, you don't know whether it's going to be a climb, you don't know whether it's going to be an attacking rider that wins. Nobody knows. Like this day, you can ride 300 kilometers and you can win or lose by a centimeter. Heinrich Hausler, who's another rider my age, he jumped with 300 to go. He did a really early sprint, and everybody then settled for second place, but for me, second place wasn't enough, and I just pushed all my chips in the middle of the table and I went after him, and like I said, I got him right on the finish line. I'm beaten by a matter of centimetres. To win that race was something I couldn't have even dreamed of as a kid, and to this day it's still my only monument win. 2016 Tour de France, the first stage, and it was the first time I'd ever worn the yellow jersey. So by this point I'd won a number of stages of the Tour de France. But the first stage, sometimes it's a time trial, sometimes it's a hilly stage, sometimes it's a sprint. The times it had been a sprint, it had always kind of eluded me. I'd worn every other jersey in cycling. I hadn't worn the yellow jersey at the Tour de France, and this was the day I did it. And it was, what an incredible experience. Like, I think it could be the most famous item of clothing in sport. Everybody knows the leader of the Tour de France wears a yellow jersey, and for me to finally be able to wear it, okay, I only wore it for one day, but to be able to wear it was a big moment in my career. It's the Olympic Games in Rio de Janeiro 2016. So I'd been to 2 Olympics previous, in Beijing 2008, and I rode on the velodrome in the Madison, and 2012 I rode on the road. Both races I'd been favourite, and both races I didn't do very well, and that Olympic medal always seemed to elude me. 2016 I went on the track to ride in the Omnium, which hadn't been in the ones I'd done previous, and the Omnium's like it's almost like a pentathlon, heptathlon, decathlon type event. It's a bunch of events, and they all accumulate to give you one medal, and yeah, it wasn't the best preparation. Well, it could have been the best preparation. Like previously, I'd been at the Tour de France just a few weeks before. I'd worn the yellow jersey. I'd won 4 stages, and I left that Tour de France early to come and prepare for this. But I got my medal. Okay, I was always the one that you don't win silver, you lose gold. That was always my thought. So I was a bit disappointed, but ultimately, to get a medal at the Olympic Games to represent your country is a massive honour. So to have that medal in my collection was very, very big, and to do it, of course, representing Great Britain is something any athlete will tell you is one of the biggest senses of pride they can get in their career. Copenhagen 2011 World Road Race Championships. So I'd won by this point 2 World Championships on the velodrome, but I hadn't won on the road, and actually the opportunity for a sprinter to win on the road comes very rarely, and we knew this was going to be a potential bunch sprint for a number of years before, and Great Britain put a whole plan into 4 years working up to this to get the amount of points we could get to secure a maximum team in the race. Like, you can have anywhere between 2 riders per nation up to 7 or 8 riders per nation, you know, and obviously the more man or woman power you have, the better your odds of winning. So all through the year, even riders who weren't in this final team committed to the cause of trying to get as many riders as we could in this World Championships, and we set out a plan to control the race to the very end and have a bunch sprint. It was an uphill finish. It's not an easy finish. If you go and see the finish straight, it's a hill, and but that makes for a very slow moving sprint. That a lot can happen. You have to think on your feet, and we did that. Of course, any sprint is going to go better with a proper lead out, one rider behind the next, and as a sprint you get shepherded to the finish. But actually I was squeezed along some barriers before the last corner and I lost my lead out, my problem, and I had to improvise then on the final straight, and I had to go a little bit earlier than I wanted to go, but when a gap opens, an opportunity presents itself, you have to go all in, and thankfully I won. I can't remember a World Championships in history where one nation has controlled a race as dominantly as that from beginning to end, and I got to wear the World Championships jersey for a year, but I really wish all those guys who were there with me had got to wear it as well. And finally, we have stage 5 of the 2024 Tour de France. My record-setting ride. For 3 years I've been tied on the most wins at the Tour de France in stages, and I wanted to do it last year. I'd retired last year, and I came close. Had a mechanical issue and finished second on one stage last year into Bordeaux, and the next day I crashed and broke my collarbone, and that was it, end of my Tour de France career. But then I decided to carry on. I was convinced to carry on by my team, I was convinced to carry on by my family, and actually do one more year. You can see where you're going, you know, it's not too long to commit everything to, and I committed everything, my team committed everything to get to the Tour de France in the best shape and try for that standalone victory, and we did it on stage 5. It was a pretty special moment. I think all my Tour de France wins are special for they have sentimental values for individually, but to set a record in arguably the biggest sporting event annually in the world is a pretty nice feeling, and then all my kids with me as well. I think lots of podium photos during the years. I've got one child on the podium, the next there's a couple, then there's 3, and it grows from year to year. It gives me a sense of how long I've been in the sport, how long I've been in the Tour de France, and you know what they sacrifice with me. It's nice to share that with them as well.